Now, the big story though about Tim Walz, and we're going to talk about this as you see, a grumpy old vet. We're going to talk about his military record because there are accusations of stolen valor. So let's look at what JD Vance says about this.
Well, of course, Dana, I honor his service, and I've never criticized what Tim Walz did when he was in the military. I criticized his retirement decision, and most importantly, Dana, I criticized his lying about his own record, okay? This is a guy who was captured on video saying, I carried a gun in war. He never went to war. This is a guy who's been captured on video. As other people say, he's an Afghanistan veteran. He's a veteran of a war, nodding along in agreement instead of saying, no, I did serve my country and I did it honorably, but I never went to a war zone. I'm not criticizing Tim Walz's service. I'm criticizing the fact that he lied about his service for political gain, Dana. Now, I served in the United States Marine Corps, and you know this. And look, there are a lot of things that I'm proud about. I've never lied about what I did or overstated it because it would be beneficial to me in an election. I think that's what Tim Walz did. That's what I was criticizing. And yes, I do think it's scandalous behavior. Well, of course, Dan.
I happen to agree, and we're going to talk about why I agree with this. Now, the one area where I disagree with what people are kind of saying about Tim Walz's military experience is that he got out just before they deployed to Iraq. I actually don't care that he got out before deploying to Iraq. It's you have a right to get out. He already served 23 years or something like that. I get it. I served 7.5 years, and got out. You have a right to get out. JD Vance didn't serve as much time, got out. I have no issue that he decided to get out when they were going to Iraq. I don't. I mean, I'm not going to hold that. I'm not going to hold his feet to the fire in that. But there's now stuff coming out that he claimed he served in Afghanistan. He didn't. He didn't even serve in Iraq. He was never a combat veteran. And there was this report back in 2009 when he was called out for using the label in 2009 by Iraq. He was called out for using the label by Iraq War veteran David Thole, who was also a sergeant in the Minnesota National Guard. Thole filmed the encounter with staff at Walz's office in Minnesota. Said Operation Enduring Freedom is limited to Afghanistan and the airspace directly above. Congressman Walz is clearly claiming to be an Enduring Freedom veteran, but he never served in Enduring Freedom. He's described himself as an Enduring Freedom veteran. Which again, Enduring Freedom was what they was the Afghan War. So this is the clip.
My name is Dave Phil. This is Travis Quinlan. We're both constituents and Iraq War vets. We're both constituents and we're both Iraq War vets. We served together with the Minnesota National Guard. So we're here on a veteran-related issue. I don't know if you are familiar with this picture at all. This was taken in 2004 here in Mankato.
Operation. That's how I've always encompasses a great deal in there.
Well, Operation Enduring Freedom is limited to Afghanistan and the airspace directly above. There's other units that are called up in support of, and I'm sure that's probably what his military orders said.
Right.
My concern, other than this picture, is that the congressman's website, his official biography, says simply that he was mobilized with his battalion in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, without any other details. Don't you think it's reasonable? People might assume that means he served in Afghanistan.
Perhaps, I guess.
Okay. So
he deployed in support of Operation Enduring Freedom is what he's saying. So he went to Italy to support Operation Enduring Freedom. But like he said, without any other details, it would allude to the fact it's not okay. It would be almost considered a lie of omission, right? You're not necessarily lying because you did deploy in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. However, it doesn't tell the whole story. And I think that's what we're seeing. We've seen that a lot with how he speaks about stuff. There's other there's stuff that he has said that is very clearly lies of omission. So here's another one. Okay. I don't know if I have anything on this. There is here. Actually I do. Here we go. Okay. So another person who served in the National Guard talked about how he claimed how Walz claims to be a retired sergeant major. Here's the problem. Technically, he served in a sergeant major's role, but his DD 214 would say that he's a master sergeant. He's not a sergeant major. So this person says, I do not regret that Tim Walz retired early from the Minnesota National Guard, did not complete the Sergeant Major Academy, broke his enlistment contract, or did not successfully complete any assignments as a Sergeant Major. Unwittingly, he got out of the way for better leadership. Thomas Behrens was the right leader at the right time. He sacrificed to answer the call, leaving his family business and farming partner, brother to train, lead, and care for soldiers. He earned the privilege of being called Command Sergeant Major. Like a great leader, he ran toward and not away from the guns. I have no opinion of Mr. Walz's decision to leave the service at the time he did. It was his right to retire early. I also have no criticism of his service as an E7 and E8 in the National Guard. By all accounts and on record, he was a competent chief of firing, battery gunnery sergeant, and first sergeant. I cannot say the same of his service sitting frocked in the Command Sergeant Major chair. He did not earn the rank or successfully complete any assignment as an E9. It is an affront to the non-commissioned officer corps that he continues to glom onto that title. I can sit in the cockpit of an airplane. It does not make me a pilot. Similarly, when the demands of service and leadership at the highest level got real, he chose another path. Look, like I said, I don't care that he got out when he did. It was his right, just as this person says the same thing. Now, when he says that he was a Command Sergeant Major, so what this person's saying is he got selected. So in the military, this is going to break it down. Hopefully it's easy to understand. In the military, you have what's called promotion boards. So when you're at a certain time in your service, you go in front of a promotion board, and they look at whether you should or should not be promoted. What it sound and the National Guard, the promotion system's a little bit different, so he may not have even had to do that. What they do though is then they determine. So if you get selected for promotion, you don't automatically get promoted. You have to wait. What they can do a lot of times they do this with NCOs a lot, is if they have a need for the person of higher rank, usually first sergeants and sergeant majors, they can do what's called frocking. They are serving in that position, so they are wearing that rank. And usually, again, it's because they've already been selected for that rank, but they haven't gone to the Sergeant Major Academy yet. They haven't gone. They haven't done any of the stuff to be at that rank, but they need somebody in that position, so they will frock you. Again, you're wearing the rank, but you're not necessarily even getting paid for that rank. Also, what does end up happening too? So if he could have gotten promoted to E9 and was getting paid as an E9 and the same things. However, what ends up happening when you get out of the military, and I believe it's if you haven't served in that rank for 2 years, by the time your end of contract or end of service, so it's the ETS date, when your ETS comes up, or when your retirement date comes up, if you haven't been serving in that position and been at or served at that rank for a long enough period of time, when you ended up getting booted back, you end up getting pulled back down. So it's not a demotion. It's just you didn't actually meet the requirements to retire at that new rank. So if he was sitting in that position, maybe maybe he did get promoted to E9. However, his DD-214 is going to show that he was an E8, and that's what he's getting paid based off of his retirement pay is E8 retirement, not E9 retirement, because he didn't meet the qualifications to be retired as an E9. So again, is he lying to say that he is a retired command sergeant major? Depends on how he's saying it. If he says, I retired as a command sergeant major, that's technically not a lie, but it's not a lie because of wording. And so it's important to say I made the rank of E9, but I didn't, distinct what happened. He is a retired E8, a retired master sergeant / first sergeant. That is what his retired rank is. He is not a retired E9, even though he made the rank of E9. If that makes sense to everybody out there, this is why it really is important. And this would be, depending on how he's saying it, this would be a case of stolen valor. He is saying, if he is saying that he is a retired sergeant major, retired command sergeant major, that is a lie. That is not the truth. If he's saying I retired as that rank, it's technically not a lie, but he should be saying I retired as a command sergeant major, but I didn't serve. I didn't go to the sergeant major academy, so I'm now at rank of E8. I am a retired master sergeant. Technically, it's not a lie, but it's shady AF. Okay. Hope that's clear as mud, because understanding that the military promotion system is a little bit funky, the way that they do all that stuff. Yeah, so Robbie says, let me see. My uncle had the temporary rank of lieutenant commander, but he retired as a lieutenant. He was never ashamed of that rank. Now, I'm assuming that's the Navy. I don't know Navy ranks, so you'll have to correct me, because their ranking system is a little bit different when it comes to officers than the Army, because a lieutenant is technically an 03 in the Navy, whereas a first and second lieutenant are an 01 and 02, and an 03 is a captain, whereas a captain in the Navy is a 05? Yeah, it would be an 05. So I'm guessing a lieutenant commander would be like the same as a major in the Army. But yeah, you should never be ashamed of that rank. I got out as a captain in the Army, so an 03. But, I never did company command, so I never led a company, but I was an executive officer as a lieutenant. I mean, I got out after I got hurt. So I got hurt jumping in the 82nds. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So it's a Army captain. Got it. Now I understand it. But yeah, I got out after 7.5 years, but I was not able to take command because I injured my shoulder before I got out. So I worked on brigade staff for a little while before before that, but I digress. Now, I do want to talk about this because this is important. This is what we're talking about, like the lies of omission and everything like that. Here's another thing that we have to be careful when we're going after his record, right? People that, if you don't understand the military, ask some people that have been in, because listen to what he says here when talking about there. So the complaint is a newly obtained tape. Then Rep Walz tells a Gold Star family during a hearing on PTSD that he was deployed to Afghanistan in 2004 in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. Says he and his troops suffer from mental health issues, was shown in the Horse Whisperer. So listen to what he says, though. Again, don't fall for some of this stuff. You got to be careful.
And both of you, with your keen understanding of how this works, especially from National Guard families, I can tell you this, having been one of those that came back, we were in support of OEF, but being sitting in there with OIF veterans, when we came back, they showed us the Horse Whisperer and told us to be nice when we went home. And that was the extent of it. That was in 2004. Now, I'm proud to say that because of the people sitting in here and people who came before me, things have changed over the last 4 years. They have not changed enough. But Mr. Kennedy is following and moving something forward that the late senator from Minnesota, Senator Wellstone, advocated so clearly: mental health parity.
Okay. So they're trying to say that he said that he deployed to Afghanistan. He never said that, though. This is what's key. He didn't actually say that. He said he was deployed in support of. Again, that is not saying he was deployed to OEF. Okay, in OEF, he was supporting, and he was supporting from Italy. So he's not lying. And I said, unpopular opinion, but he didn't say he deployed to Afghanistan. He said he came back. And what happened? So again, when you come back from overseas, what he's talking about is reintegration. So when you come back from overseas, you go into this process of reintegration. And so it's usually 5 days long? I can't remember how long it was, but you come back and, like, literally the day you get off that plane, the next day you start going in and doing mental health evaluations and taking different classes and doing all this stuff. So that way because you were just in a combat zone, you need to, like, prepare yourself for what could come and what issues you could have coming into going into the real world when you've been overseas and seeing crazy things that people are just not going to understand. It can sometimes feel lonely for veterans, and so that's what they do. And then they do, like, I think they have medical appointments. It's like 5 days of just things you have to, like, hit all these things done, and then you get your leave. So you go through reintegration, and then you kind of then you can get your leave after all of that. The whole unit will go on leave, and then you can go see your families and stuff like that. That's what he's talking about, though. He went, so even though he was deployed to Italy and never went into the combat zone, they still went through integration or reintegration with the combat veterans. So I have no issue with what he was kind of saying here. What I will say, however, though, let me see, is, let me see, where is that? I thought I had. No, let me see. It wasn't that. So what I will say is there was also a picture that I was going to show that showed him holding a sign, though, that said combat veterans or OEF veterans. Actually, here it is. Here it is. This is a sign. This is actually OEF veterans for carry. But again, he was not an OEF veteran, yet he's classifying himself as one. That's the problem with this. This is what I said. I said it's not what I told Elon. Like, that's not what he said. I said you can see how he uses language to give himself more credibility than he deserves, but he never claimed to be in either country. And so Steubens posted this picture. Now this is an issue, and I responded and said, yeah, that's messed up. Again, this is one of the weirdest ones too. So the Harris campaign thinks that this stuff's all good, right? So they posted this. This is the Harris campaign Twitter account, and they posted this like it was all good. Like this was a win for them, and it's going to win people over. So here.
Hope woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and said, Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this. I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back. And I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states. And we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
You never served in war, my friend. You never served. You never carried a weapon in war because you were never there. And like I said, the Harris campaign, this is still up. It said we could make sure those weapons of war that I carried in war are only carried in war. You were never there. You were never there. That's an issue. Like, and for them to post that, like that's some great thing. Like, no, bro, that's shady. As you know, that's really shady. But here's the thing. Tim Walz has a whole lot more than just this. Honestly, this is the worst candidate I think that they could have picked.